KKHT wants you to meet three of the classiest guys in real estate.
I am Chris Kelso, the maestro of mortgage.
I am Rob Cook, the godfather of real estate.
And I'm Joe Orsack, the king of credit swing. And together, we're the Real Estate Rat Pack. Much like us, real estate right now is smoking hot. So whether it's buying, selling, or owning, you need to check out the Real Estate Rat Pack.
They're here to take your calls and answer your questions live. Call now, 1-800-808-5548. And now, the Real Estate Rat Pack!
Good morning. You know, I'm sitting here thinking, Joe, and we have our beautiful guest host, Natasha Livingston, with One Guard on.
Chris,
today,
you're fired.
She is so much. She is so much easier on the eyes. But I'm trying to think the last time all three of us were on the show together.
It's been like a month.
Wow, that's amazing. That's amazing. Anyway,
yes.
Before we get started, since it is our show, and Joe and I have a mutual friend whose birthday is today, so for Teresa Brown, it's happy birthday.
Teresa Brown, happy birthday,
there
girl.
You go. So,
happy birthday, Teresa.
29 years old.
For the... I'm not going to say it, Teresa. We're going to stay away from that. What anniversary of her 39th birthday it is. Anyway, today with us, again, we have the
What are we talking about?
Oh, I think we're going to talk.
What are we doing here?
Wait, Joe, is
Rob just called me and said,
out?
"Hey, you guys show up here."
Yeah, and he's really good at showing up, except for yesterday when took that cheap shot. Anyhow, you know, through the Houston Association of Realtors, there's a group. It's called NRG, which is Next Generation Real Estate Agents, and we have I guess it's basically a process whereas we select 20 great agents, and it's called 20 Under 40. And we had 4 of them on previously.
Well, that's a convenient name.
Yes, 20 under 40.
What a coincidence.
We are fortunate enough to have 3 of the winners of that award. And the first one we're going to be talking with is Chance Brown with the Realty One. Welcome.
Thank you. Good to be here.
He's the token male guest.
That's right.
Well, I thought I had to balance it out a little bit.
We do that to stay out of trouble, I think.
Yeah.
I'm bringing the pretty factor down. I mean, Kelso.
Kelso Steed.
I wasn't going to go there, but now that you mentioned it, they're much prettier than you. But anyway, and Chance,
I'm starting to see a pattern here in the show.
Of goofiness. Is that the?
Well, yeah,
exactly.
that's true.
Anyway, Chance, you just opened up a brand new franchise. Is that correct?
We did. We just brought Realty One Group, which is the 7th largest real estate brand in the country, to Houston, and our office is going to be opening up first of the year.
There's your only
one and only plug.
Get you.
Yes.
So anyway, but what we want to talk about today, because there's a disconnect. We talked about this previously. There's a disconnect. The average realtor is now 57 years old, and the average new home buyer or first-time buyer is like 28 to 34. And so what we're seeing is, I'm disconnected a lot from that youthful buyer. So we want to talk about the trends, what you're seeing out there. What are they buying? What do they want? I'm a boomer, and our age, we were the accumulators. And I think the new generation seems to be a little smarter than we were. So let's talk about when they're out looking for homes, what are they looking for?
I think the biggest driving factor that we're seeing in the market today is not necessarily feature driven, but it's really about time and lifestyle. It's not we're going to live out in the suburbs and drive an hour and a half to work every day just because that's the thing to do. It's what is around where we're going to live that is easily accessible, in a lot of cases in walking distance or riding a bike. And I think you're starting to see, from a municipality standpoint and from a developer standpoint, communities build up around that concept.
So you're seeing developers and builders, something like that, selling more lifestyle than features is pretty much what you're seeing?
Absolutely, yes.
So when they do a master plan community, there's going to be amenities and things there that are going to be appealing to the youthful market.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think if you look at, from a historic perspective, if you look at the ExxonMobil move to the Woodlands area, if that was happening 20 years ago, there's almost no question that move goes downtown Houston. And the people working for ExxonMobil still might have lived in the Woodlands and just made that commute. Today, they pick the Woodlands, and they're building up communities like Springwoods Village and the Woodlands around that to make it a more employee-friendly environment.
Yeah, I think you're saying, again, it goes back to lifestyle. And if anyone has ever made that commute from the Woodlands to downtown in the morning, probably understands
exactly.
that's not much of a lifestyle.
No,
No.
that's not a lifestyle at all.
I think really gone with this generation, the millennial generation, gone are the 2.5 hour a day commutes.
So what are we seeing that the younger consumer is wanting? Are they going for, like I'm going to spend all my money. I want to make sure I get the biggest and best house, or are they being a little more budget conscious?
They are being a little bit more budget conscious. Interest rates tend to play a big role in their decision making because they're almost more focused on the monthly payment than our folks were.
It's not how much it costs; it's how much it costs me each month.
Exactly.
If you buy $1 million house for $1,000 a month, you probably would.
Right.
Is that exactly right? Of course, I survived 18% interest rates, and so you sit there and watch these people go, and oh my God, I think it might go to 6%. I'm going, man, we were up jumping in the streets when it went to 10%. So you all have never been in that market.
No.
Well, just even the last 5-6 years, it's still crazy how much it came down in the last 5-6 years. I got 8.25% on my house, and kind of, hey, this is fantastic. I was getting a top-notch rate.
Good deal back then.
Yeah.
It's less than half of that, since then. So
That's a great
amazing.
segue, and Joe, you're going to have some input on this, I'm sure. Is that we were also the age group that we were accumulators, so we would get into debt a lot, and of course with Dave Ramsey and shows like that, I think there's a little more consciousness about how to handle money. Are you seeing that in your buyers and sellers?
There is. You're absolutely right. There's a lot more consciousness about financial literacy today. The big toss up in the air is what they do in college,
Right.
because when they're handing out T-shirts for credit cards and free money. There's a lot of people who are going to buy their first house and they still have stuff on their credit from 2 or 3 years ago when they were in college.
Now, part of the NRG group, which is a large group, and mostly anyone who's really under 40 years old and is in the real estate industry can be part of it, but you're actually working on a legacy program.
For our Texas Realtor Leadership Program.
Right. And
it's an Adopt a School program where we would put it's a Dave Ramsey class called Foundations of Personal Finance into local high schools.
So, Joe, I'm actually not typically that we ask our host questions, but again, it's that segue into: are you seeing a lot of people that are young that are having credit issues, or is it usually people?
No, our demographic is typically a person in their 40s.
Okay.
So that's the common. So you can be hopeful. Maybe for the love of God, somebody stops maxing out credit cards and going into debt. I don't know.
Well, there's no greater freedom than being out of debt.
Yeah.
Let's face it, and that's what.
I personally, I had to learn that actually probably a couple times over, and I just don't carry debt on my credit cards anymore. I avoid it like the plague.
No comment.
No comment. Well, we are approaching the season of indebtedness.
Yes. No.
Exactly.
No.
Yes, we are.
My Christmas is cash and carry for me. I don't. No credit card debt. So in dealing with your youthful buyers and stuff like that, when they're buying, I know they're looking for certain features. Are they looking for 2 stories, 1 stories? Talk about that a little bit.
The 1 story versus 2 stories really up in the air, and it really depends on where they're living. If they're going to be living inside the loop in the Houston market,
If you're living on the 4th level.
right? Exactly. You're going to be looking at one of those higher density type of projects where you're going to have a 3 to 4 story townhome. Out in the suburbs, though, it's really personal preference on the 1 story, 2 story. But what you see a gravitation to is communal space versus formal space.
Right.
I think that one of the biggest opportunities in the home building world is to start tailoring houses more towards the millennial generation, and get rid of formal dining rooms, or at least have an option.
How
to get rid
lofts
of formal
became popular,
dining
because this is like one big open space
Exactly.
out there.
Yeah.
Exactly, and you can do what you want with it.
Exactly.
And that's what we see is the open floor plan was great. Granite countertops are great. It's how can we have people over to hang out in a non-formal setting, just to have buddies over, outdoors, having a nice patio, things like that. With outdoor kitchen is great, but it's not a must-have. But just having a place to hang out.
Fun stuff.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So they just want essentially that if it's a dining room, it can also be a pool table room.
Exactly.
It's whatever their recreation is.
Mine is my kids' playroom.
Yeah.
And there you go.
Turn that pool table into an eating table.
That's right.
Thanksgiving.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, because at our house, the dining room is getting its semi-annual cleaning, so that we can use it for the Thanksgiving dinner. When
Well, you
our
also have
parents
a
come and
garage.
cook.
You're
Is-
blowing
that-
all the dust off.
Yes.
Joe's in there
Yeah.
with his
You
blower.
have a garage that's a dojo, though,
Yeah,
too.
the garage is actually a dojo now, so-
You're repurposing everything.
No one will ever know on Thanksgiving. Don't worry.
Yeah. That's right.
We have done a show in the past about energy, and we've seen a lot of builders who are pushing energy. Is that something that you find that your buyers are going like, you know what, I don't want to pay a lot for electricity, and it's a big factor in when I make my decision.
Absolutely. I mean, like I said, it's what am I spending each month on this total living space, and with the money left over, what am I going to be able to do that's close by and fun and
Party.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And so, obviously your utility bills are going to play a part of that. The other part of it is, especially on the home builder side, when they're plugging, is low maintenance. This is not I want to wake up every Saturday morning and go spend 3 hours mowing the yard and doing that. That's not that generation.
After 20 years, I
Those
realize
days
there's
are
other
gone.
people out
Yeah.
there who will do it for me.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Those days are gone, Rob.
And
So-
so low maintenance. Tell me what that looks like for you.
It's not the half-acre yard. It's a smaller yard. It's fine. It's not having to repaint. It's not having to landscape a lot. It's give me more time with my friends and family.
I have a question, Chance. So that's interesting that you mentioned that. It kind of leads to the dynamic that they don't want to drive into the city and make this
Right.
hour-and-a-half commute, and so they would like to stay where they are so they can come home from work, walk to work, or I guess maybe ride a bike or what have you, and then get home and spend that extra time either partying, having fun, or quality time.
Right.
Or
Spend time
whatever.
with the family. And
So is that what they're actually looking for? It's interesting because I was licensed in '97 as an agent, and that wasn't too long ago. But
And you're still under 40.
of course, yes. Only shy by maybe 1 year. But a lot of the buyers back then, it was to get away from the city and building up the suburbs. And they wanted to get out of the mix of everything to build families. So are they not wanting to build families? Or are they just wanting to hang out?
well, I think if you look at the statistics, and I don't know the exact numbers, but if you look at the statistics, they are having children later in life than our parents did, for sure. So there is let's enjoy some life
Some quality
together
time.
prior to starting a family, but it all plays in together. I mean, even younger people with families want to be close to the recreational things that they're going to do with their kids, whether it's a park or shopping, restaurants. And I think you're seeing that. And if you look at kind of how the settlement of Houston in particular is becoming nodal, where you've got Cinco Ranch that's kind of grown up around the energy corridor.
Right.
You've got the Woodlands with the same in the petroleum industry, and I think you're going to start seeing a lot more of that, especially now with Grand Parkway opening. It's going to open up a whole new avenue of development.
Chance, we are already up against the break, and I want to make sure folks know how to get a hold of you. Yes, we're giving the break
My
sign.
hands
In there, Chance.
That wasn't a physical threat or anything.
No.
So how do folks get a hold of you?
They can get a hold of me. My phone number is 281-380-7631 or cb@roglonestar.com.
Awesome. Well, we are literally up against a break.
Copying me,
Yeah,
Joe.
our producer's giving us that evil eye. We better go.
Yes. So we have to make sure our sponsors get the time on the air as well. So anyway, some commercials. We'll be right back. You give us a call at 800-808-5548. We'll be right back after this break.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
And we're back.
We are
As we're all
back.
sitting around looking at each other. You going to talk? Okay.
No, we would never do that.
No, you go ahead.
The Rat Pack and their extension host this morning.
Yeah.
Well, I am going to introduce our lovely next Under 40 winner, and her name is Michelle Posey.
Good morning.
Good morning, Michelle. And she is with Better Homes and Garden, Gary Green, the Sugarland location. I will let her introduce herself.
Woohoo! Good morning, guys. How are you?
Good morning. Good morning.
Doing fantastic.
I'm excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Yes, thank you for being here. Well, do you want to give your plug now? I will not push you till the end and make you give it at the last few seconds here.
Well, I'll just start off by saying, there's an old saying that I always live by, and it's you never work a day in your life if you love what you do.
Oh, awesome.
And I truly love what I do. I'm passionate about what I do, and
I
feel that I'm the bridge that connects people into making their dreams reality. And I'm their advocate, here to listen and do what I got to do to make it happen.
So, Michelle, how long you been doing real estate now?
I have been in real estate for 8 years. I've been in sales my entire life. Started in the car business at the age of 16, and
what?
so
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
yeah. I've been 100% commission paid since I was 19 years old.
Wow.
That's all I know. I wouldn't know what to do with a salary.
But you're but you're open to the possibility, right? And so you've been with Gary Green and Sugarland. What areas do you typically work?
I live and work in Sugarland. I do a lot of work inside the Loop, so Galleria, Montrose area, Heights, Midtown, Downtown. I even go out to the Cy-Fair area because I grew up in the Cy-Fair area, and so I'm very familiar with that area and how much it's grown. I also do a little bit in Katy.
And the reason I asked that question is, we're talking about real estate for a new generation. And when you're working in some of the burb areas, I know typically what you can probably find moving inside the Loop are people who are either going to be empty nesters and they're moving out of the burbs.
Absolutely.
Or young people who want to be close in. So what do you see in when you're taking people out to the suburbs? Is it
And so this is why I like to be diverse in the areas that I work, because being inside the Loop, and I have a lot of friends inside the Loop, and they get married, they want to start a family, but you're not going to have the yard space. You're not going to have that family lifestyle. And when you're inside the Loop, sometimes you have to think about private school. Maybe they don't want to do private school and spend a little bit more on the house. Mm-hmm. So then they look at venturing a little bit further out, and all of a sudden the commute into work is the last thing on their mind, because their family lifestyle and what is going to help their family is the most important thing. The commute is the last thing that they're thinking about, and vice versa. I have a lot of empty nesters out in the suburbs that they don't need all this extra space, so they're wanting to downsize, move in closer to town, have easy access to the theaters and restaurants and so forth. So they downsize into the townhomes.
So you're interviewing, say, an under 40 like yourself. What's one of the things that you ask them to find out where's the best place for them to be?
In part of my fact finding when I first meet a client is to find out what's important to them. Mm-hmm. Is it lifestyle, community, the commute? What really is important to them? And what I have found lately is the majority of them want that family environment. So lifestyle and community is a key factor for them.
So, of course, one of the questions always is, would you rather live close to your work or live close to where you play?
Right. And my husband and I have always had this in our head for forever, is you find where you want to live and then you work around that, because you never know where you're going to be working tomorrow.
Right. That's right.
Your home is your home, and that's where your heart is, that's where your soul is, that's where your family is. And so you can't pick up your family and just move as quickly as you can a job.
Right.
True, of course.
And jobs may or may not always be there.
Correct.
Yeah.
So that's something interesting.
Which is what about being an independent contractor, that job is always going to be there. And if you're not having a job, it's because you decided not to have a job that day.
Exactly. I have a question, Michelle. I know Chance was talking about ExxonMobil and what's going on out there in the woodlands, and they're building up around it. Since you live in or working in the Fort Bend area, and me being a native Fort Bend County resident from birth, I know, yay! I know what's going on out there. I've sold out there as well in previous years. What do you see is the draw now for that particular area, given the commute into town is getting a little taxing? So what do you see as the difference or the draw? Because we still have lots and lots of growth going on in Fort Bend County. There
is, and I will say that we have come a long way. I've been in the Fort Bend County area for about 10 years. This December will be 10 years. And when we first moved out there, we commuted into town to go to restaurants and nightclubs, but they have the greater Fort Bend area has developed so much that they're catering more to the younger lifestyle.
Absolutely.
Because you do see a lot of the younger generations moving out to the suburbs. So, I mean, very rarely do my husband and I leave Fort Bend. And if we want to get out, we go close by. So
Town center, probably.
Town center, usually.
Yes.
Yeah.
So it's, the commute into work, again, is not that big of a deal.
So-
But we do have a lot, I think that we've done a great job in working on the infrastructures and expanding freeways and having access to the toll roads. You have the Fort Bend Toll Road. We now have the Grand Parkway that connects West Park Tollway. So when I'm working with people that are looking in the Fort Bend area, going out to Richmond isn't that bad when I have someone that's with Chevron going downtown, because they have options.
Right.
And so that's one of the things in my fact finding too, is find out where they're going to be working, how much of a drive do they want, and then lay out the routes that are the possibilities for them.
Okay, so they have a choice at that
Right.
point, and they don't mind always the commute then.
And I tell them, do the commute.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
that's right.
and depending on what your schedule is going to be, if you're working, if you're going in at 6, 7 o'clock in the morning, it may not be that bad hitting the West Park Tollway.
No.
But if you're going to go in at 9 o'clock, do that commute first before we commit on buying a house.
Right.
Oh, that's actually great advice.
That is. It's really good advice. That way you really know. It's kind of like going see the house in the morning and going see the house in the evening when everyone's out and about.
And I also say go see it on the weekends and at night, because you want to see what kind of activities going on in the area.
Absolutely. It's great advice. And
What kind of cars are rolling around in the neighborhood and things like that.
Do you ever have folks who aren't worried about the commute?
I do, until they start looking at how much it's going to cost them to be closer into work. And then all of a sudden, that's irrelevant.
that
when
money
when
factor.
when you've got to pay another $200,000-$300,000 to be 5 minutes from work, then it's not an issue.
I can
anymore.
pay for a lot of tolls.
Yes, it
Well,
can, Rob.
I actually was asking that question in reverse, in that, like, I don't mind driving,
Right.
as a deal. I started listening to books on my phone, Audible, a few years ago, and I go through a book every 2 weeks, and I don't mind. I hate sitting in traffic idle,
Right.
but I don't mind driving across town. I drive 50 miles to something, and that's just like a normal drive.
So when you buy Kim that new home
Yeah.
that you're going to buy her,
She's
that
going to remember this.
We
won't-
got it worked in. We got it worked in for the show.
we don't have to worry about how far from your office that you are. So
Yeah,
that's-
what's funny though is I went from driving from Humble Kingwood to Midtown for 3 years back and forth to now I drive over 1960 to get to my office. So I have to go through this one brutal light, and the traffic is a beast. Sometimes I have to sit through 2 lights. It's horrible.
Okay, Michelle, and
Yeah, but I digress. Exactly.
Yes.
And so when you're talking to these people, of course, I always tell people to do a lot of things that they would be doing on a routine basis, and I also tell them to go visit their neighbors. But I do find that the people that are younger are a little more tolerant and more accepting than maybe somebody who might be my age. I'm seasoned. Is that right, Joe?
Yeah. Well seasoned.
So, wow. Yeah,
Some would say over seasoned.
and you've just heard from my former co-host, Joe Orsak. Chris, come home.
yes, Chris I think they'll have you back now.
So, I mean, is that something else that you have them do? Is go meet your neighbors, drive the neighborhood, see who's living there.
And it's funny because I find out a lot of information from my buyers. They're like, we were walking around and we saw the neighbors, so we just walked. They're very open to going up and asking them, how long you been here, and they start finding out things, and they get convinced by talking to the community and finding out.
I think that's important because
is.
that's who you're going to be living with for who knows how long. Because it used to be everyone moved 5 to 7 years.
Right.
Now it's more like 7 to 10 years that they're moving. They're staying longer. You're seeing that too,
Yeah,
also.
absolutely.
Have you had
Wow,
any-
really?
Yeah.
I wouldn't have thought.
Well,
and that makes sense if they're creating, living around the lifestyle. It makes sense that, hey, if I got a lifestyle that I want, I'm much less interested in moving.
let's go back to my generation. We were always wanting more.
Bigger, better.
Bigger, better, prestige is always a big thing. Security was important too, and I think that's still an important thing nowadays. Is security? Is that?
It is, and but I will tell you that a lot of the builders these days realize that, and so they're up on their game in finding out what's important to the buyers today. So having things like a media room, having that stone elevation, the 3-car garage, they know what's important. So it helps ground these families today, so they're not having to move as often.
So what do you see the builders do specifically? 3-car garage. What else are they doing?
The key things for most of my people they want are the open concept living, which a lot of the builders are doing. They want to entertain. But the other thing is 2 bedrooms downstairs. I work with a lot of international relocation buyers, and I find more that my buyers are thinking about the future and having their parents move in with them.
Wow.
Or they're going to start their family and they want to have the baby's room downstairs next to them. So 2 bedrooms down is very, very important today for a lot of my buyers.
Yeah, we had Perry Homes on, and we talked about a lot. There's a lot of new 1-story plans being rolled out. Of course, you don't get as much yard with a 1-story because the slab's much larger, but we're seeing a lot of that. And some households are 3 generations.
Correct.
Right.
Especially in my age group, you had the boomerang kids, and then the parents.
I have a 14-year-old or about to be 14-year-old daughter, so I'm looking for a 3-story with single bedroom on the 3rd floor with no windows.
How about a casita outside of the house?
Oh, wow.
Attic, maybe a large attic. Well, Michelle, we are also already coming up on a break. I want to make sure folks know how to get a hold of you.
Yes, I can be reached at 713-504-0066. Or you can hit me up on my website at www.michelleposey.com.
Awesome. Well, when we come back, we've got a call from Gabby on the line who has a question about planning to buy a house. So I'm sure you guys will be ready and chomping at the bit to answer that. So we'll be right back after a break and a word from our sponsors.
Ain't that a kick in the head? The room was completely black. I hugged her and she hugged back like this.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
And we're back. Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show. We've got some awesome guests in the studio today.
Yes, we do.
Yes, we do.
Top 20 under 40.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you.
Yeah, don't try this at home, folks. We're skilled professionals.
That's what this $250,000 salary is all about right here.
Well, I wanted to, from Heritage Texas Properties, Bridget Martin. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good morning, guys.
And also one of our 20 under 40 winners. So
yes.
Talk a little bit about your business and when you started, and then we're going to take a call.
I have been licensed almost 7 years now and pretty much focus West Houston up to the Northwest. Live in Spring, but my office is outside of Royal Oaks Country Club. But I grew up in Katy, so I'm kind of between Katy and the Woodlands and that little quadrant over there. But it's been great. I've like Michelle, been in sales my whole life and loved it. So.
Right. Joe, you said we have a caller.
Yeah, we have a caller on the line. We've got Gabby who has a question about planning to buy a house. So, Gabby, are you there?
Yes, I am.
All right. Well, you have a question for some of our awesome realtors today?
I do, actually. Okay, so I don't own a home now, but I'm in college. I'm going to get my bachelor's, and I have an awesome job right now. But I want to wait until I obtain my bachelor's to buy a house. Is there something I should be doing right now to prepare for when I make that decision to buy the house to make it easier?
Okay, so and for the realtors, for the guys in the studio that didn't have headphones on and couldn't hear the question, Gabby says she's in college right now. She's got an awesome job. She's working on getting her bachelor's, but she's planning on waiting to buy until after she completes college. So until that point, is there anything that she needs to do that would help her streamline that process?
Well, Joe, of course, we always ask qualified questions for people who are ready, but one of the things you were talking about, and we were in a class yesterday that Joe taught, was about preparing for credit. So I would say you address to build up great credit
Yeah,
between
absolutely.
now and the time she graduates.
Absolutely.
So,
I can. There's kind of a segue over for Chris as well in this, but since he's not here today, I'll kind of touch on it a little bit. You definitely, from a credit standpoint, right now 640 is kind of the magic number you want to make sure you're above. So I would definitely recommend, and I always recommend this to anybody, no matter where they're at in the process, to pull your own credit, a consumer report. Now, the scores can be different on that, but typically they're pretty close. So at least you get an idea of where you're at. If you pull your credit report online, you can go to ImproveMyCreditUSA.com. We have options to do that there. Call our staff. They'll help you do it if you have any trouble. For free, exactly. And you'll get an idea. If you get those reports back and you see 720 plus, you're probably going to be in great shape and have no issues on the credit side. Otherwise, you'll want to talk to some credit experts and kind of get that part in line. Then on the job side, you said you have an awesome job now, and I know when it comes to the lender side, they want to see that you've got at least a couple of years of job history in the same industry. So while you're in college now, if you're wanting to planning on buy as soon as you get out, and if that's not so far off, you definitely don't want to switch jobs or industries. You can stay in the same industry, but you don't want to jump to different industries. So keep that awesome job until you graduate and you get the house thing squared away, and then you can change careers if you want to.
Now, Gabby, have you established credit for yourselves?
I'm not sure. I mean, I don't do credit cards. Me and credit cards, no. I feel like if I can't buy it cash, I'm not going to buy it, period.
While that is great practice as far as budgeting goes, you definitely will want to sit down with a credit expert and have them look at your credit situation. It's very possible to have good credit without the credit cards, very possible. However, you need to have a mix of credit. You need to have a number of trade lines. A lender's going to want to see at least 3 trade lines that you've got good, positive credit history on. So sit down with one of our credit experts. Let them look over your situation. Again, that's a free thing. Doesn't cost you anything. So whether you need us or not, it doesn't matter. And I'll give the shameless plug here, 281-914 281-914-4116, so that you can at least get that looked over. That's from a credit standpoint, I would highly advise that, and so that you have time to prepare, because there's nothing about credit that's quick. If you need to do something on that side, it's not like, oh, hey, I'll knock this out in 30 days or 60 days and get my ducks in a row. You're going to need 6 months, a year, that type of thing.
And this is a really great question, because this is the time to start establishing great credit.
It is.
And a good history. And, of course, save some money, because I think we're going to be seeing more like 5% down as a minimum on FHA. And, the CFPB is going to change a lot of things on
January
on what they call the qualifying mortgage, which is an entire another show.
Yeah.
Yes, Rob.
But this is a great time to do it. Don't get out and it doesn't sound like you're like a lot of our age group that gets out and got into debt right away, right out of college. Yeah, I can afford a card. Look, they're giving me all these credit cards and stuff. So you're being a lot more prudent than my generation was. So that's great. But you do have to establish some amount of credit prior to being able to buy a home. But do buy a home, because it's the best place to put your money. And if you go back to 1970 and forward, and then we talk about how great gold is, houses outperform gold almost like 4 to 1.
Yeah. So there's a first step for you on the credit side and a little bit on the lending side there. I know Chris would probably have some advice for you if he was on the show, but that's a good start there. Realtors, guys, y'all have any advice for her?
Yeah, the other advice is, of course, get a hold of a great realtor.
Talk to a realtor.
It
costs you nothing too as a buyer.
You got Bridget, you've got Michelle, and you've got Chance all here. They'd be all be happy to help you.
And it's on that note, since I'm not a realtor, I can give these guys a shameless plug here for this. You have time. It's rather than, how do people find a realtor any other time?
Well, you can throw a rock down the road, you'll hit it.
Exactly, right? Exactly. And so how do you know if you've got a good one? That's kind of my point. You've got time. If you're still in college, you're still looking down the road, you've got time to interview your realtor and find someone that has the credentials, that also has the personality that is a good fit for you, because this person is going to be your advocate when you're out there dealing with the other end of the other end of the transaction, the seller. If you're buying a resale home, and they're still your advocate if you're dealing with a new home. You want that person on your side. A lot of times you get that the builder that there's a few of them out there that encourage you to dump your realtor. Your realtor is your representative in
That's
that
right.
transaction. They're looking out for your best interest. So you really want to make sure you have a good one.
That's right.
You know, so pretty much go to the realestateratpack.com, and anybody that's been a past guest is going to be a good one. Another shameless plug.
There you go.
Okay.
Did we answer your question, Gabby?
That did answer my question. That's all I had, actually.
Thank you so much for calling.
Thank
We
you,
appreciate
Gabby.
it.
Thanks for the call.
But thank you, guys.
So, back to Bridget. So
Back to Bridget.
Back to Bridget.
That was almost like the perfect call-in, is because that's who you're going to be working with.
Yes.
I mean,
and I will say, if you go to HAR, obviously go to realestateratpack.com. But when you're looking for a realtor, I think that brings up a really good point. Client experience ratings are crucial. That's going to be basically our rating that our past clients have given us, and it's all done through HAR. So for me, I'm big on reviews. I think our generation is big on reviews, and it's coming from someone else's mouth. It's not me sitting here telling you how great I am. It's you're talking to people who have actually worked with me previously.
yeah, and I was one of the people involved when we were developing the rating system for that, and that we are the only association website that does rating. And and you think about it, do you ever go to eBay to buy anything?
Yes.
Okay, what's the first thing you look at before you make a
Rating,
purchase?
yes.
Everything.
Yes. Everything.
Restaurants, whatever it is, I look at a rating, honestly.
And I noticed if you go to Amazon, all that, they'll have a lot of reviews. In fact, you can click on those reviews and see what people are saying about people.
Yes.
So it is very critical. And of course, when you're talking with people, you're making sure that you're a great fit for them.
Correct.
Also, I mean, you've got great reviews, but when you're interviewing, because sometimes it's not a great fit.
Sometimes it's not.
It's not.
And you spend a lot of time with whether they're buyers or sellers, and you go through a range of emotions and highs and lows, and you want to make sure that you're able to communicate well, and they communicate with you in the manner you prefer, and that you get along well.
Right.
Chris chimed in. We monitor all our social media during the show here. So if you're on Facebook, you can go to facebook.com/real estate rat pack and post a question there. But Chris chimed in on Facebook, and he also obviously had some great advice for Gabby there. He said, also buy within your means, not necessarily what you qualify for.
Yes.
Very good.
That's a really good point, because it was our generations. Our parents said, buy as much as you can until it hurts.
Yeah.
But I like to eat.
Yeah.
I like to have lights on.
I like to have lights on, and I like to travel.
Lights aren't overrated.
Yeah.
And and so, are you seeing people who are buying below their budgets?
Absolutely. They're very
smart.
There was
Right.
nods
Yeah.
from all around the room there.
Yes.
Yeah, I see a lot of heads going up and down. It looks like a bunch of bobbleheads.
Yeah.
Yes.
Bridget, I did have a question going back to what you all were talking about, the customer surveys.
Yes.
Do you see being an under 40 agent and working with the new generation, do you see now, and I can compare it to some years ago, not too many, but that they are actually utilizing these surveys, all the hard work
Absolutely.
Rob and them went through, but do they actually say, hey, I actually read these reviews and this is what I like about you?
Yes, I have had several clients that came directly from the client experience rating.
Wow.
And I'm a huge advocate of it. I think
Good.
it's absolutely wonderful. My rating is not perfect. It's almost perfect.
I don't believe the perfect ones.
I don't either. I don't either. And I
right.
think
Yeah,
if
they
it
did
is a
one
perfect
transaction.
5, yeah, something's funky.
Or they paid someone.
Exactly. So, but yeah, it's buyers and sellers I've gotten,
Good.
especially with sellers, because, and I always say, interview your agent, no matter if
Right.
you're buying or you're selling. And
that's
sometimes the decisions come down from
a legitimate
to that.
question is, how are you rated on HAR?
I'm at 4.99.
Well, that's,
Almost
I'm a
perfect,
5.
Bridget.
I'm almost there.
Almost.
But I think, that's an absolutely a question you want to ask a realtor is, what is your rating? And do you have a rating? And if not, why?
yeah, and we know people who don't want to be rated. There's a reason they don't want to be rated.
Exactly.
Typically.
Hey, I'm a big fan of the ratings. I push that quite heavily.
And who's the number one consumer rated?
Yes. Thank you. You saw where I was going with that, didn't you?
A shameless plug, that is.
Okay,
Of course.
Berkshire Hathaway Anderson Properties. I just thought I had to get a plug
Why
in there
not?
somewhere.
Well, okay. Well,
Throw
since
it
we're
out
getting
there.
plugs in, then one guard home warranty. And
Always
if you
get
need a
home
warranty.
warranty.
Yes.
Always.
Very important for new
Yes.
buyers. Now,
Yes.
also, guys, and to the listeners mainly, although we have a group of generational under 40 agents here, that doesn't mean they can't assist with all ages
Correct.
of buyers and sellers. Is that correct?
Yes, and I've got to say my business is probably 50-50.
Absolutely.
I work with a lot of under 40, and then also, the baby boomer era.
Good.
It's just a lot of it's personality and I think location of what area you're working in.
Well, and I think that you guys offer a great mix to any buyer or seller with being the age group that you are. You're up to date on social media.
Technology.
And oftentimes, some of these sellers that are more seasoned and buyers, they need that push.
Yes.
They need that to understand.
Well, the buyers are coming from online
Right.
a lot, so you've got to be online.
And that's great. We've come a long ways.
When you hear
Right,
the music,
Rob?
it's time to go.
How do we get a hold of
I'm
you?
done.
How do we get a hold of you?
Call me, my cell. You can call me, text me, 832-656-2472.
There we go.
Yeah.
Well, as you
Sorry.
can tell, the music is playing. We got another break.
And the hook is coming.
Yes. The break sign is going.
You were supposed to do that, Joe.
Yeah,
and where was it?
I'm sorry. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
Gotta give, something's gotta give, something's gotta give.
Welcome back to the Real Estate Rat Pack Radio Show with Chris, Joe, and Rob. The crew is taking your calls, so dial in at 1-800-808-5548.
And we're back.
What
We're
did we
just
decide?
chatting about Harleys on the break.
I just wonder what happened if we decided, we don't really want to come back. We're having a good time here in the studio.
Just the extended music thing going on.
We got a great producer. He could probably cover for us. And stuff like. Well, this is kind of the show where we kind of want to open it up to everybody who's here participating. And again, we're talking about real estate for a new generation. So,
Yes.
Natasha, you had some thoughts here during the break as to things that you didn't get answered.
Oh, yes. I was actually, we had done a show some months back on international real estate here in the Houston area, and Houston does encompass Sugar Land, Fort Bend County, and I wanted to ask Michelle how that plays a role in what you sell out in that particular area. I've been in several seminars, and they talk a lot about the global diversity that has come not only to Houston, but also into the Fort Bend County area. It's like a concentrated area. Why don't you tell us a little bit about that, Michelle?
Well, what I have found is that the consumers have voiced their opinion on what's important to them coming from overseas, and the builders again have recognized this. And so when these families come in and purchase their homes, they're thinking about having their extended family come and stay. When they come from overseas, they're not just coming for a week.
Right.
They're coming for 2 and 3 months. So looking for a second living space. The dining room, a formal dining room, again, is it's gone. So they'd rather have that as a second bedroom or a play area, and then having secondary living spaces. So maybe the open living downstairs, game room, media room upstairs. So mom and dad can have their space downstairs watching their show, and the younger generation can watch their stuff.
It's funny you say that because it has definitely grown. I can remember where it was hard to find a home with that second living space. And so now that the builders are making that available for the buyers, even the ones coming in international. So that's being available.
And the other thing that we're focusing in Fort Bend is the restaurants and
that's true.
the amenities that's available for the different cultures. So you're not finding just the Chili's and
right.
just the American restaurants. You find a lot of different diverse.
Well, the Fort Bend was named, I don't remember who did the survey, but it was the most culturally diverse county in America.
It was.
So
It is.
Wow.
And that's why I posed that question. People don't realize what's out there. And as Michelle just mentioned, even the restaurants, we have so much growth that is encompassing all generations as well as cultures and ethnic groups. And I think that's awesome.
Yep, absolutely.
So,
So let's have Chance. Are you seeing that in your market too, where it's very culturally diverse? I know you don't do a lot of international, but I know you must do some.
Yeah, and I think just to build off of what Michelle was talking about, is you're starting to see the cultural influences on different areas of town. I was talking with a friend of mine the other day about the different festivals, because this time of year is, you can actually go outside and not melt. So you're starting to see the fall festival season, and it's interesting to watch the different areas of town have different festivals, and it really reflects the cultures that are moving into that area.
Well, you know what? We just a little plug for the Renfest and one of our buddies out there, Liam, at the Pirates Cove. I have went to the Renaissance Festival for 20 years now, 20 years in a row. It was the first big kind of date that my wife and I went on together. Aww. And so, as all the ladies go, now.
Joe. I didn't know you were that old.
Yes. I couldn't make the top 20 under 40 group. Let me put it that way. But every year we would go out there, and now it's turned into a family thing. The kids have went every year of their life, that sort of thing. Well, when we first started going out there, it was this little bitty, 2-lane little road. It was an adventure. It was like going out to the boonies. It's like a doggone massive, like freeway now headed out there, and it's not until you really get way out to Montgomery where it starts getting down into the little 2-lane road again. It's going to be a mega freeway headed out there.
Right.
And one of our friends that are here in our studio today, Vaughn Peterson with Clean Air, is in here today. And of course, he and I went out to the Renfest last week, and it is a melting pot of the planet.
Yeah.
It was just amazing.
Of the planet,
of
Rob.
the planet.
And I heard you guys had a great time out there.
Yeah, we did. But what happened at Renfest
stays at Renfest.
Yes. And Bridget, I want to kind of ask you the same question. I know you do some international business, and what are you seeing from that when they come in?
My biggest thing is I'm seeing their concern being security. They want the gated, sometimes guarded communities. They will only look at those communities that are gated.
And they're coming from countries that security is a huge issue.
Absolutely.
And then, of course, your office is right outside of Royal
Oaks Country Club.
And I've went into Royal Oaks the other day to show some property, and they have like 3 or 4 gate systems in there.
They do. Yeah, you've got the estate section within Royal Oaks, which is also gated. And guarded.
So I thought,
gated
wow.
and guarded.
24/7.
I like that,
yes.
Rob.
Yeah, they took out my license number, the
I was gonna
client
say
who
they
had followed
let
me
you
his
in.
license number and got all their information. So but you know what? That's everyone's security conscious.
Yeah.
Nowadays.
Really. Unfortunately, it's come to
It's
that.
the world we live in.
Security systems. They want the video surveillance. I mean, everything.
Although our city is still one of the top cities for safety, and we don't have as much crime as some of your major metroplexes, but it's still just the mindset.
It's there.
That's because we're in Texas.
Yeah.
A well-armed society.
Good old state. What happens in Texas stays in Texas.
Yeah, somebody, I talk about, off the topic thing, but I don't know if y'all have seen that the knockout game thing that's been making the news lately.
Yes.
Oh my gosh, I posted about this on Facebook.
I haven't seen it.
Kids, it's up north right now. Kids are like, they just randomly target somebody and not try to punch them and knock them out. And somebody made the comment that, this would never happen in Texas, because they would, unload on them.
Yeah.
And I said, perhaps it hasn't happened in Texas because everybody knows that.
Yeah.
Yes. What happens in Texas stays in Texas.
So, let's kind of talk about the security. So, Michelle, I know you're talking about dealing with international buyers. Are they're having the same concerns with the people that you're dealing with, or do they feel maybe safer out there in Sugar Land?
No, I would have to agree with Bridget. They're looking more for the gated communities and the security where they have access to it by the touch of their fingers, being remotely connected. We recently added this to my personal home where I can log on to my security system.
Yes.
Like we were in Vegas not too long ago, and I logged into my system from my phone and could see the cameras and different. And I saw I had a package sitting at my front door. So I called my neighbor and said, "Hey, can you go pick up this package for me?" So,
Brittany, get ready to invoice in case she mentions the company name.
Well, Michelle, before we start going around, Michelle just wrapped up a reality show, you guys. So I wanted her to tell the listeners and everyone else just real quick, like you have 10 seconds. Okay, goes really fast. I'm kidding.
So there was a casting call for a reality show called Home First Home, and it's on the Better Show. The Better Show is this is the second season they did it, and they basically, the camera crew followed me and a first-time home buyer that I worked with around. We looked at 3 properties. Basically had to do reenactment on the 3 properties and highlighted what first-time home buyers are looking for and what they can expect. And the show airs on the Hallmark Channel and nationally. And you can also pick up the webisodes. There's 8 episodes of me in it online at The Better Show.
Awesome, awesome. Well, see, that's what you get when you're working with the famous 20 under 40. And these are new things that are new to the generation.
I'm not saying it's because they found out she was going to be a guest on the Real Estate Rat Pack.
That's
I'm
right,
just pointing
Joe.
out that it's a possibility.
And she's on the Real Estate Rat Pack, so
Yes.
we're going to all get an
Get
autograph
this girl.
here.
Get this girl. She's on the guest list. We got to get her.
Get your autographs while you can.
So
I'm joking.
that's a great segue. And so they've done these 8 shows about what the first-time home buyer wants. What did they discover?
Again, lifestyle, community,
And ponies.
and ponies.
That's what you want.
Well,
My daughter, actually, yeah.
and you know, we talked
Ponies.
about this a lot this morning. Is the buyers being financially conscious about their budget? And so, a lot of these first-time home buyers, they're not. They want to go out and eat and drink and still party and go on trips. So they're not wanting to exceed their budget and stay within their limits.
I think the downturn we had and what they experienced as a younger generation really showed them a lot. And I think it was pretty much educational, not only for us in the real estate industry, but as well as these buyers. They're a lot more savvy now. Yep. And that, I think, really helps. So
So we're kind of coming up towards the end. We just got the 3-minute warning.
3-minute warning.
So
Yes.
what we want to kind of do is, you've been talking about things, and we're talking about, real estate for a new generation. What would you like to have the listeners take away from this show?
Well, we talk about the new generation, but I would also say that, like Bridget, a lot of my business is working with some of the baby boomers. So I'm not afraid to pull out a yellow pad. Actually, I do have. I'm sitting here with a pad in front of me with a pen, not an iPad. I mean, I do have an iPad. I have a mini iPad. I have my iPhone, all that good stuff. But
That is
but
funny.
I have to be able to be flexible and work around the elderly folks and work not elderly
Not
folks.
you, Rob.
Okay,
Not you,
I wasn't looking at you, Rob.
You were looking
I was
right
looking
at
at you.
Yes.
But you want them to feel comfortable and not intimidated because you are the younger generation.
yeah, you have lots to offer.
And I can still fax you a contract if I have to.
I don't know about that.
Chance, what
Put the shovel down and step away from the shovel.
That's right. I got to work my way around Rob's walker here to get to the mic.
The Godfather.
Wow.
If there's one thing to take away, my advice would be really know what you want. Before you go into it, take some time and sit down and talk about what's really important to you. Is it time? Is it what's nearby? Is it being close to family?
Okay.
My big thing is, just use a realtor. Honestly, as a buyer, it's not going to cost you anything, and as a seller with the market it is today, I know there's a lot of talk of, cutting corners and all of that, but with multiple offers and the legal issues you've got going on, it's worth it.
listing agents are working 10 times harder now than they did previously because they have to filter through all this.
I've got to deal with 10 clients or 10 offers for one house, which is I'm not complaining, but
it's worth its weight in gold.
Joe, you have something to take away here?
Yeah, you know what? With the call that we had, I would like to say that begin before the process. Begin before you want to buy the house. Get out there 6 months before and make sure that your ducks are in a row with the credit and finances. Talk to a credit expert. Talk to a lending expert. So we're down to the last 10 minutes of the
10
show.
seconds.
10 seconds of the show. Yes.
So till next week. Tune in. We'll be back.
Yes.
And you've been listening to the Real Estate Rat Pack. The question is, who's Frank, who's Sammy, who's Dean, and who's the other guy?
Chris is Frank,
I'm
he's
Dean.
Dean, and I'm Sammy.
Yes, that's right. Yeah.
So tune in to the really big show every Saturday at 9 a.m. right here on 100.7 The Word, KKHT.